What is up, truck fans? What happens when a pickup truck goes from the ultimate American dream to an absolute, undeniable nightmare? We are talking about the machines that were supposed to conquer the dirt, haul the heavy loads, and rule the open road, but instead they ended up parked in the graveyard of automotive failures. Today we are diving deep into the 10 most hated American pickup trucks in history. Hit that play button, smash the like, comment down below what your least favorite truck is, and subscribe for more epic automotive history. Let us get into it right now. Starting us off at number 10, we are traveling back to the 1970s. Imagine an era where fuel prices are skyrocketing, and America desperately needs a tough, reliable, compact workhorse. Enter the Chevrolet LUV, sold from 1972 to 1982. The name literally stands for Light Utility Vehicle. It sounds like the perfect solution for the hardworking man, right? Wrong. The reality was a complete and utter letdown. The Chevy LUV was not even a real Chevy. It was just a rebadged Isuzu Faster imported from Japan, slapped with a bow tie emblem, and sold to an unsuspecting public. Under the hood of this so-called utility vehicle was an embarrassingly weak 1.8-liter four-cylinder engine, pumping out a pathetic 75 horsepower. You could barely merge onto the highway, let alone haul a bed full of heavy construction materials. But the weak engine was only half the problem for the buyers. The real reason Americans grew to absolutely despise the Chevy LUV was its horrible build quality. The sheet metal used on this truck was practically paper thin, making it feel more like a cheap toy than a durable work truck for the farm. If you looked at this truck the wrong way, it would dent. If a rainstorm rolled through your town, it would begin to rust immediately. Many angry owners reported that their trucks began rusting away while they were still sitting brand new on the dealership showroom floors. It was a disposable truck in an era where Americans expected their pickups to last a lifetime. Ultimately, it became a symbol of cheap, compromised manufacturing, leaving a sour taste in the mouths of loyal Chevy fans who just wanted a real durable truck that could actually survive a normal day of work. If you thought that was bad, wait until you see the joke sitting at number 9. Welcome to the Dodge D100 from 1974 to 1978. Now Dodge has a legendary reputation for building rugged, unkillable trucks, like the massive power wagons of the past. So, a mid-70s. Dodge truck should be a powerhouse of American muscle, right? Absolutely not. This was the dark ages of the malaise era, a painful time when new government regulations completely choked the life out of American engines, leaving performance enthusiasts completely heartbroken and frustrated by the lack of power. The Dodge D100 was the prime victim of aggressive new smog and emissions equipment. Those big, beautiful V8 engines that buyers paid top dollar for were detuned so heavily that they felt like they were gasping for air. A massive 318 cubic inch V8 from this era was heavily restricted, dropping its output to a dismal 145 horsepower. You had all the terrible fuel economy of a massive V8 engine, but the sluggish, painful acceleration of a golf cart. It was heavy, slow, and completely embarrassing to drive around town. But here is where the nightmare repair bills come in. The mid-70s D100 models were plagued with incredibly dreadful build quality. The parent company, Chrysler, was struggling financially, and it showed in the terrible wiring, the cheap interior trim, and especially the incredibly thin paint. Owners were spending large amounts of money just to keep the truck from stalling at red lights, all while watching the metal fenders literally rot away in real time. It was a completely miserable ownership experience that drove many loyal Dodge buyers straight into the waiting arms of the direct competition. But Ford was not doing much better at the time. Coming in at number 8 is the Ford F100 from 1972 to 1975. The Ford F-Series is the undisputed king of the American road, famously holding the title of the best-selling vehicle for decades. So how could an F100 possibly end up on a most hated list? Because if you bought a Ford truck in the 1960s, you got a tire-shredding, high-compression workhorse. If you bought one starting around 1973, you got a completely tragic disappointment. Just like Dodge, Ford had to rapidly comply with the new oil crisis and strict emissions reality. The legendary Ford engines were violently stripped of their high compression ratios. The previously mighty 302 cubic inch V8 was suffocated by smog pumps and highly restrictive carburetors, plummeting its net power output down to practically nothing. You had this incredibly heavy, imposing steel truck body that looked as tough as nails on the outside, but underneath the massive hood, it fundamentally had the mechanical heart and the overall pulling strength of a standard riding lawnmower. To make matters even worse, to compensate for the massive drop in horsepower, the mechanical gearing was altered. The trucks often felt like they were screaming in agony at highway speeds while still being incredibly slow to actually get there. It was heavy, it was sluggish, and it rusted just as badly as everything else manufactured from that dark era. Buyers absolutely hated the mid-70s F100 because it looked exactly like the legendary powerful trucks of the past, but completely failed to deliver on that American promise the second you stepped heavily on the gas pedal. Moving out of the 70s and into the 1990s, we hit number 7, the GMC Sonoma, running from 1991 to 1997. The 90s were the absolute golden age of the compact truck boom. Everyone wanted a smaller pickup for the crowded city that could still do weekend hardware store runs. The GMC Sonoma, the mechanical twin to the Chevy S10, was supposed to be General Motors' premium, high-end answer to the incredibly popular Ford Ranger. It was supposed to be a comfortable, highly capable, and extremely reliable modern machine. Instead, the Sonoma was a masterclass in terribly cheap manufacturing. Step inside a 90s GMC Sonoma, and you are immediately greeted by a massive sea of the cheapest, most brittle gray plastic known to mankind. The interior door handles literally snapped off in your hand, the plastic dashboard cracked violently in the sun, and the seats felt like they were stuffed with old newspapers. And then there were the endless electrical gremlins. The Sonoma was widely notorious for faulty instrument gauges, constantly dying alternators, and cheap engine sensors that would fail on a weekly basis, driving owners crazy. But the real reason it firmly earns a spot on the most hated list is its terrifying safety record. The official crash test ratings for these 90s General Motors compact trucks were absolutely abysmal. In frontal offset crash tests conducted by major safety institutes, the entire cabin structure would violently collapse inward, making it an incredibly dangerous vehicle to be trapped in during a serious accident. It might have been very cheap to buy up front, but you paid the ultimate price in endless repairs, constant electrical headaches, and a complete terrifying lack of basic human safety on the open road. Things are getting worse. At number 6, we have the Ford Explorer Sport Trac, produced from 2001 to 2010. Ford had what they genuinely thought was a brilliant automotive idea: combine the interior passenger comfort and family-friendly space of the massively popular Explorer SUV with the outdoor utility of an open pickup truck bed. It was supposed to be the ultimate hybrid lifestyle vehicle designed specifically for the modern American family. Or at least that was the expensive marketing pitch that Ford aggressively pushed to the consumer market. The reality, however, was deeply flawed from day one. First of all, the early Sport Tracs directly inherited the massive, terrifying public relations nightmare of the original Ford Explorer platform, specifically the infamous rollover safety stigma and the deadly Firestone tire blowouts. People were naturally terrified to drive the platform. On top of that bad press, the early models were burdened with an incredibly weak and notoriously thirsty 4.0-liter V6 engine. It was agonizingly slow to accelerate, painfully fuel inefficient, and had a very well-known tendency for catastrophic engine timing chain failures. But the absolute biggest insult to real truck guys was the cargo bed itself. It was not made of heavy-duty steel. It was manufactured out of a cheap composite plastic material. Sure, Ford loudly claimed that it would never rust, but it felt incredibly flimsy. It was embarrassingly short in length, and it completely lacked the rugged durability required for real physical work. Let me know in the comments down below, Is a short plastic bed bolted onto an SUV frame actually a hidden treasure for city living, or just pure garbage disguised as a truck? Are you ready for the absolute craziest vehicle on this entire list? Sitting proudly at number 5 is the legendary 1991 GMC Syclone. Now hold on, I know exactly what you are screaming at your computer screen right now. The Syclone is an undeniable legend. It is a turbocharged street monster. How on earth can it be hated? Listen, as a performance sports car, it is an absolute masterpiece of engineering. It featured a heavily turbocharged 4.3-liter V6, advanced all-wheel drive, and it could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 4.3 seconds. It was famously faster than a brand-new Ferrari. But we are not judging sports cars today. We are strictly judging pickup trucks. And as a functional pickup truck, the GMC Syclone was an absolute undisputed failure. Why? Because General Motors essentially deleted the vehicle's ability to do any actual truck stuff. In order to make it sit incredibly low to the ground and handle the massive violent speed, engineers completely gutted the rear suspension. The official, legally rated payload capacity of the mighty GMC Syclone was a truly pathetic 500 pounds. Yes, you heard that number correctly, 500 pounds total. Think about what that mathematically means. If you put two average-sized adult American men in the front driver and passenger seats, you were mathematically at the absolute maximum weight limit of the entire vehicle. You could not put a heavy load of dirt in the back. You were explicitly told by General Motors to never tow a trailer. You could not take it off-road because the ground clearance was virtually zero. It was an incredibly expensive, incredibly fast machine that wore a truck costume, but if you tried to use it like a truck, you would completely destroy it. It frustrated truck purists to no end. If you think a useless, overpowered sports truck is bad, wait until you see the expensive midlife crisis on wheels sitting at number 4, the Chevrolet SSR, built from 2003 to 2006. In the early 2000s, America was completely obsessed with nostalgic retro design. Chevy boldly decided to capitalize on this fading trend by building a hardtop convertible pickup truck that closely mirrored the visual look of a 1940s hot rod. It sounds really fun on a design paper, but the real-world execution was an unmitigated disaster. First of all, the Chevy SSR was incredibly, unavoidably heavy. Built on the massive GMT 360 SUV platform, it weighed in at nearly 4,800 pounds, and for the first couple of production years, they only gave it a 300 horsepower 5.3-liter V8 engine. That sounds like enough power in theory, but physically moving nearly 5,000 pounds of solid steel made it feel incredibly slow and sluggish. It was a supposed hot rod that could easily get beaten off the starting line by a standard family sedan. But let us talk about the terrifying nightmare repair bills. This was a massive, extremely heavy truck with a highly complex retractable hardtop convertible roof and a very shallow, completely impractical truck bed covered by a heavy motorized tonneau cover. The initial sticker price was well over $40,000 in early 2000s money. You were paying a massive premium for a weird truck that could barely haul a set of golf clubs. When that highly complicated convertible roof inevitably broke, owners were looking at thousands of dollars in mechanical repairs for a vehicle that nobody actually wanted to use for real work. We are formally entering the top 3, the absolute worst of the worst. Sitting comfortably at number 3 is the Lincoln LT, sold strictly from 2006 to 2008. By the mid-2000s, greedy automakers realized that very wealthy people wanted to drive big pickup trucks too. So Lincoln decided they urgently needed a premium luxury truck to compete in this highly profitable new market segment. Their corporate solution? The absolute laziest, most uninspired piece of blatant badge engineering in modern American automotive history. The Lincoln LT was literally just a Ford F-150. And I do not mean they simply shared an underlying chassis platform. I mean Ford literally took a standard F-150 Super Crew, slapped a massive shiny chrome waterfall Lincoln grille on the front bumper, aggressively changed the badges, added a tiny bit of exterior chrome trim, and called it a day. The interior cabin was barely upgraded from a high-end Ford model. It had the exact same 5.4-liter Triton Vive 8 engine, which, by the way, was notorious for violently breaking spark plugs. Consumers are definitely not stupid. They clearly looked at the expensive Lincoln Mark LT, looked at the identical Ford F-150 sitting right next to it on the exact same dealer lot, and instantly realized they were being asked to pay a massive luxury premium purely for a shiny Lincoln badge. There was no unique suspension tuning, no exclusive high horsepower engine, and absolutely no bespoke luxury driving experience. It was a blatant insult to the intelligence of wealthy luxury buyers and a completely embarrassing, immediate flop in the competitive market. Just when you genuinely thought the mid-2000s could not possibly get any worse, we confidently present number 2, the Hummer H2 SUT, produced from 2005 to 2009. The standard Hummer H2 was already the ultimate global symbol of highly aggressive, totally ostentatious American financial excess. It was massive, it was incredibly difficult to park, and its boxy design loudly screamed, "Look at me." But General Motors executives thought, what if we aggressively chop off the back roof section and give it a tiny, mostly useless pickup truck bed? Thus, the H2 SUT, which officially stands for Sport Utility Truck, was angrily born into the world. It took everything highly controversial about the original Hummer and somehow made it significantly less practical for daily use. Because of the massively oversized passenger cabin and the required spare tire carrier mount, the actual open pickup bed on the H2 SUT was ridiculously, laughably short. You could barely fit a large plastic cooler back there, making the functional truck aspect of the vehicle entirely useless for any real physical labor. But that is not even the worst part. This massive, heavy 3-ton mechanical monstrosity was easily getting single-digit fuel economy figures. We are talking around 10 miles to the gallon on a really good, careful day of driving. And exactly when did General Motors decide to aggressively push this gas-guzzling, impractical status symbol onto the public? Right before the devastating 2008 economic recession and a massive, painful spike in global gas prices. The Hummer H2 SUT quickly transformed from a flashy celebrity must-have into a deeply hated symbol of environmental disregard, becoming completely unsellable overnight. And finally, the exact moment you have all been patiently waiting for, the undisputed heavyweight king of complete truck failures, the ultimate automotive disaster. Number 1, the 2002 Lincoln Blackwood. Long before the incredibly lazy Mark LT was ever conceived, Lincoln boldly tried to invent the entire luxury truck segment from scratch with the Blackwood. And they got the execution so spectacularly, undeniably, and hilariously wrong that the entire truck project was forcefully canceled after just one single miserable year of production. It remains an absolute corporate embarrassment. Ford inexplicably decided that their premium luxury truck should be rear-wheel drive only. That is right, a truck with a massive base price of over $52,000 in 2002 money with absolutely no four-wheel drive option available. Good luck driving it safely in the winter snow or heavy mud. But the real unforgivable crime was the customized truck bed. Lincoln arrogantly decided that real truck beds were far too dirty and rugged for wealthy luxury buyers. So they covered the outside exterior of the bed with extremely fake simulated African wenge wood. Inside the bed, they fully lined it with thick plush luxury carpet, installed fancy LED lighting, and firmly bolted a massive permanent powered tonneau cover over the top that opened exactly like a car trunk. You could not safely put a dirty refrigerator in it. You could not legally haul heavy construction gravel. You could not even carry a tall household plant because the lid would not close. Would you ever pay $52,000 to haul absolutely nothing but air in a carpeted trunk? The Blackwood was completely out of touch, making it the most hated pickup ever. That wraps up the top 10 most hated American pickup trucks. From the shockingly rusty and weak to the overpriced and useless, These epic failures prove that a real truck needs actual utility and reliability, not just an empty bed on the back. Which of these automotive disasters is the absolute worst in your eyes? Let us know in the comments, smash the like button, and subscribe for more epic videos.